So we are talking F1 the movie today,
That's
Brett.
right. Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about this conversation.
Me
This
too.
was one of the biggest hits of the summer movie season,
Yep.
about $183 million. And I know that you reviewed the movie for us.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you thought.
I had such mixed feelings about this movie, okay? And that's exactly why we wanted to talk about this. I feel like I've been bugging you for a couple weeks now. We need to talk about this.
We need
to talk about F1, right? Because my mixed feelings were, man, I love sports movies, and F1 was, I think, objectively a great sports movie, right? It was thrilling, very entertaining, good character development, and just very well shot, super exciting. And yet there is this spiritual message that I walked out of the theater with, and I touched on this a little bit with the review, that left me feeling a little bit cold.
Okay, so
I thought it was a little bit empty.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Did you think of that as you were actually walking out of the theater, or
No.
did you think about it the next morning?
I thought about it the next morning as
Yeah.
I was contemplating my review, because you walk out of the theater, and I think we should just say here, F1's been out now for a little while. We're going to dig into some spoilers here just as we talk about kind of the underlying theme of the movie, but it definitely leaves you with a really good feeling, right? It's a very triumphant ending, the way it portrays kind of its main character. That's Brad Pitt's Sonny Hayes, this racer. You really walk out of the theater feeling good, right? It's that classic sports movie, like, they did it all right. They overcome.
Yes.
But as I thought about it and continue to think about the very end of the movie, I really did feel like, man, that's kind of a weird message. It made me feel a little empty, like I said.
So this is an interesting thing, because obviously go to Brett's Plugged In review, read it.
Yep, it's online. We'll link it in the description.
There's definitely some content issues that you also need to be aware of. But this is one of the things I love about our job, is because beyond those content issues, the swearing or whatever content that you have, there are some deeper underlying messages that we get to deal with.
Yes.
So unpack a little bit about what your reaction to this.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because the movie is not content free, but it is created with broad and mass appeal.
Right.
PG-13. PG-13, it is a movie I could easily see a family going to with maybe not little kids, but with like teenagers, and feeling like pretty confident that we can navigate these issues here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, and just, again, very propulsive plot, the racing is thrilling. This is coming from someone who's not a racing fan at all, but I was invested in terms of the movie. We like to dig in here at Plugged In. We have the opportunity to dig into a little bit more of like what's beneath the surface in some of these movies. And that's exactly why we wanted to talk about F1 today, was because when you dig a little bit under that really triumphant feeling you get at the end of the movie, it does have this kind of weird message that we're going to talk about today. And I would say kind of a hollow message. So we don't need to tease it any longer. The message really is, so Sonny Hayes, right, the main character, Brad Pitt's character. Old grizzled F1 racer who's been given the opportunity to...
Not too grizzled. I mean, he is played by Brad Pitt.
He's fairly, grizzled for Brad Pitt.
Yeah, exactly.
So he gets the opportunity to come back to an F1 racing team, right, the premise of the movie, to try to save this racing team.
Right. And he was an F1 racer for 30 years
back in the day, had a terrible crash. It kind of ended his career. He was kind of this greatest that never was type of character. He gets the opportunity to come back. His friend's racing team is going to go under unless if they can get a win at some point in the season. Just one win in 9 races. But they are very under-equipped.
They are very bad.
To do so. They're a very, very, very bad team, right? Again, classic sports movie setup. So he gets this opportunity. Again, spoiler alert here. They succeed.
Yeah.
They win. Brad Pitt is able to, he's able to mentor this hotshot young driver that has kind of his own struggles. He's able to bring together the team. They're able to pull together and win. And at the very end of the movie, Brad Pitt says, adios. So long.
Riding off into the sunset.
Riding off into the sunset. I was even a little surprised that they didn't have him get into a taxi and the taxi to drive off into the sunset. Yeah. Ostensibly to go and continue this chase that his character has been after for his whole life. The thrill of the race that he can only get when he is racing. Right. Regardless of what racing it is. And you think, man, F1 is the peak. This is where you think he would end up. But no, he walks away. And that's not a bad ending necessarily, but the way that it was presented in the movie left me like, again, feeling a little cold. I was wondering, okay, I don't 100% understand the reactions to all of this too. What were you, because you watched the movie as well. What were your takes?
I did. And so just right off the bat, I think that your take was right on. Right. And my take has a couple of other little wrinkles to it, but you are talking about this guy. It feels very much like this American archetype. Yeah. You have this sort of brave loner who rides
solitary figure.
It's a very Western trope.
It is, yeah.
And it was interesting, actually, now that I think about it, how the Brad Pitt character, Sonny Hayes, he always had a deck of cards, which is also he was a professional gambler for a while. But he also there's the card deck. It made it feel very Western, you know. So you've got this archetype who rides into town, saves the day, rides away, says goodbye to all the friends that he's made. So it does feel very American in that way.
It does.
But I was contemplating just sort of that hollow feeling that I think that you get because, you know, the loner archetype, it has an appeal.
Absolutely.
Right? We love that idea of this strong single person who can save the day.
Well, it's like maybe the truest distillation of like a story protagonist.
Right.
It is a singular character who is coming in and affecting change wherever he comes into.
John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, now Brad Pitt. These are these loner archetypes. And even you could talk about Batman, you know, in the same sort of way until he gets all of his Bat family together. But so you have this, and it's a very attractive trope. But you really see it within the context of F1, the hollowness of that. This guy lives out of his van. He goes from place to place. He doesn't have a home. He seems to enjoy that, but there's a hollowness to it.
Well, and that maybe is what kind of tripped me to this a little bit is they do show that initially. He is living out of his van, right? There is an element of, okay, is this guy kind of a loser in some ways?
Yeah.
But the movie really leans into the romantic elements, the classical elements of this guy isn't tied down. He's living his life. He's doing what he wants to do. He's slaying dragons, right? That's how he refers to it. New dragons to slay, right? Once he conquers a challenge, I got more dragons to slay, right? And so it's just kind of the breathlessness, the way the movie presents this life, especially at the end when, you know, he makes a lot of friends along the way. He really does a great job of bringing the F1 team together.
Right.
And just kind of supporting them, encouraging them, right? He does a good job. There are very good things that he does throughout the movie. He mentors this, again, Joshua Pierce, the young hotshot driver. He romances the F1 team's technical director as well, pretty actively. I would say he's definitely pursuing her. It's not like she's just falling all over herself to be with him. He is pursuing her. And yet, at the end, after all of that, he is just so more than willing to be like, all right, see you guys later.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, we'll see you down the road.
And then everyone around him is just like, man, that's Sonny. What a guy. What a guy. And I think I would have found it maybe a little truer if at least some of the characters would have felt a little abandoned by Sonny, because he just kind of disappears, right? As they are on this wave after, hey, we've got a victory, right? There's still a lot left to build here, but he feels like, my job's accomplished, so I'm out of here.
It is interesting. You brought up the point that Sonny really created this team. You know, they talk a little bit about how F1 is a team sport, which is really interesting.
And they show it very well throughout the movie.
Very well. And you see that Sonny has the ability to create this team. And, you know, toward the end of the movie, everybody's running with him in the morning, you know, so you can see that camaraderie.
He gets them to believe.
Exactly. Yeah. And then he leaves the team. It's almost as if he's leaving his family. Yeah. You know?
Yes.
And there is a sadness to it. You know, the thing about one of the wrinkles that I got from Sonny's character is that he may be much more sad than we would think of him. Just sort of in the context of the movie. It's very heroic. It's very, very energetic. But when you drill down into the character of Sonny, we see a sadness to him. There's a moment in when he tells the team's owner, essentially, I need this.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that you even really see true emotion on his face, where you can see there's something deep inside him that needs that. And yeah, you just see that hunger, that vacuous hunger, I would say, for the thrill, for the excitement. But he misses the deeper joys of community. Yeah. And that's when we talk about this from a plugged-in point of view, we know that we are creatures of community. God created us to be in community. So to chase the winds as he does, there's something kind of empty about that.
There really is. And, you know, there's an element too. We talked about kind of this idea of the American hero archetype, right? This lone solitary figure. I think that you could make a connection there a little bit, this singular person who comes in to save a group of people. I think that is an echo of Christ in some ways, right? So I don't think that the archetype itself is necessarily bad. But there are some different ways that it can be presented that maybe get a little more humanist of like, hey, our own, we pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps kind of a thing. And in Sonny's case, right, he does affect a lot of positive change, and then he just kind of drops it to pursue this fleeting feeling that you were talking about, that he kind of knows he is never going to catch fully. So that was another piece that I was like, man, like the archetype itself is an archetype for a reason, and people connect with it. But it's how it's presented that I think makes a big difference, especially from a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, and let me go a step further. I actually think that when you look at Sonny Hayes' character, especially toward the end, there's an emptiness to his, sort of his outlook on life. He is also one of the most irresponsible people I have ever seen in movies. And let me explain that. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it really struck me. So toward the end of the movie, this is a spoiler, he has an accident. He comes back from the accident. He begs to be back on the team. He wants to do this last race. In the context of the movie, it's wonderful. But he cannot see very well. Like, he is starting to blur. You get the sense that he could be going unconscious at any time.
Right.
Dude. Well, if I had that, I would not be allowed to drive on roads, like neighborhood roads, right?
And you wouldn't be pulling out your driveway. He's driving 200 miles an hour.
200 miles an hour. And not only risking his life, but all the lives of everybody
F1
around him.
Is very dangerous. Drivers have died racing F1.
Sonny, you needed to give it up.
You needed to give it up. Yeah. So I wonder, though, as we're kind of talking about this archetype and this character, I did compare, in my review, Sonny to a ronin. I did compare him to a cowboy, right? Again, the solitary, kind of masterless figure that's just going to and fro. Is there a way to portray that well? Because we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Is it hypocritical to watch a Western movie, or say a movie like Akira Kurosawa's like Yojimbo or something, which very influenced by Westerns, American Westerns, right? And say, well, that works. So, and yet, F1, I don't know, it left me feeling kind of down. What do you think?
Well, okay. So when we were talking about this earlier, the thing that came to my mind was another Kurosawa movie, Seven Samurai.
Okay, yeah.
It also has that Western vibe. You have these samurai who come in to save this town. They're all loners. They bond together for this one thing.
Yep.
And at the very end of the movie, a number of them have died. A few of them walk away, but you see the remaining samurai watch as the farmers that they have just saved, plant rice. And it's really interesting because as they watch, one of the leaders says, "They are the victors, not us, because of their land." And I think that makes a huge difference, right? Yeah. You have that sense of they look at this and they see something enviable, something that they do not have.
They're looking at the community.
They are looking at the community and they say, we do not have this.
Yeah.
And I think that is, in some ways, a place that we should really think about. I am drawn to that loner archetype as much as anybody, right? Yeah. I think that is a really appealing thing, but we know that we're made to be in community.
Well, it absolutely can work, and it absolutely can feed into kind of this very positive, like self-sacrificial archetype, right? And I think that maybe that is what was missing from the F1 piece is, you talk about Seven Samurai. You think of a Western movie like Shane, after Shane helps clean up the town and he's riding off in the distance and like
The little kid, Shane,
the little kid's calling after him like, wait, like where are you going, right? There is that feeling of loss, even if it's the kid that's expressing it. Of like, well, why is he walking away, right? And I think you could also argue, too, that there's a little bit of an element where maybe Brad Pitt's character becomes a little more emotionally directly connected with some of the people as well. And so that makes his leaving a little more jarring, I would say, too.
You know, one of the things that I think the movie... As you say, the movie is very triumphant, right?
Oh, yeah.
It makes you lean into the fact that everything is good by the time the credits roll.
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
The contents of the movie in some ways hint at something a little bit deeper and a little bit darker. And one of the things that I noticed when I was watching the movie is that the Brad Pitt character, Sonny Hayes, he has this thing on his sleeve. It is the 7 of Spades. It's just a little symbol that is on his sleeve. And if you, obviously, we do not buy into this here at Plugged In, but if you look at some belief systems that look into the symbolism of cards. You know, the 7 of Spades indicates intellectual mastery, but it also indicates inner journeys and challenges and misfortune or bad luck. You know, and you have that sense. So you have that 7 of Spades and you know the bad luck that has been a part of Sonny's life. You have the misfortunes, the journeys that he's always dealing with. It is an explicit, in some ways, it's a subtle but explicit reference to this is a broken man who's trying to find fulfillment in the only way that he knows how.
Yeah.
And as Christians, we could point to a better way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think that we've covered a lot of the stuff that we wanted to talk about today. Again, I just want to point out, like, hey, if you saw F1, if you liked F1, we're not saying you're a bad person for enjoying this movie, right? Because, like I said, there were elements that I really, as I watched it, as a sports movie fan, just as a movie fan in general, I was like, this is extremely well done. Inspiring even in a lot of ways. And Sonny as a character, again, does a lot of good things.
Yeah.
But here at Plugged In, we do want to dig a little bit deeper and just take kind of a critical biblical lens toward some of the entertainment that's coming out now. And we want to encourage you to do the same. So that was really kind of the reason for this conversation.
Absolutely. And I think that we also need to be mindful of warning young drivers out there, do not drive if your vision's blurry. That is something you do not do. And if you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear more from you. And we love doing these videos. We like to share them with you.
See you next time.
Bye.